On today's show, Dallas Mavericks versus Boston Celtics NBA Finals preview, including key players, matchups, storylines, and so much more. How will these two teams square off this upcoming Thursday? It's all coming up on today's Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA, the biggest stories with the local experts. I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, also host of Locked On Rockets right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. Because LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals that you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. Because LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, making the process even easier and quicker. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnba. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnba to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Mavs and Locked On NBA, Nick Angstadt, who you can track down wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Mavs. Here as we preview the NBA Finals between the Dallas Mavericks and the Boston Celtics. And Nick, this is the first place I want to start is I know that it's the regular season and things change a lot between the regular season and the postseason, but this Mavs team did lose both of their regular season matchups against the Celtics. So what, if any, lessons can the Mavs take from those two meetings in the regular season and potentially apply here as we're getting ready to take on the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I just did an episode on this on Locked On Mavs, so you can go subscribe there wherever you get your podcast. But the March 3rd one, you can actually look at it. And most times in the playoffs, you look at matchups in the regular season, you go, oh, well, this guy didn't play, this trade hadn't happened, and so it's just invalid. That happened with all the Timberwolves games, basically, all the Thunder games, basically. Like, none of them mattered at all because the Mavs are just so inherently different right now with PJ Washington, Daniel Gafford, the guys that are in the rotation now, compared to, the regular season. But that March 1st matchup, everyone played. Porzingis actually played for the Celtics. You have the Mavs. It was post-trade. They were only 8 games into the trade, and so the rotation was still kind of messy. Gafford only played like 6 minutes. Derrick Jones Jr. only played like 7 minutes. Tim Hardaway still playing a big role. But the Mavs played their guys. And so you start looking at it, and I did take one thing away from it. The way that the Celtics are going to guard Luka, they will give up the switch. They will allow Luka to get whatever switch he wants. And that's something that some of these teams in the playoffs have not necessarily given Luka every single time. And so that's something that I definitely am looking at to say, are the Celtics going to do that again? Are they going to live with that? Because all of a sudden, then it can be a really long series for a guy like Al Horford, a guy like Peyton Pritchard, a guy like Sam Hauser, even Tatum and Brown. If he's going to try to make them work, Brown will probably start on him and defending him. But Derek White and Drew Holiday, now I've named all the Celtics players, but Luka will get a switch on any of those, and he's got some kind of advantage over each and every one of those. And so that's something that I'm really looking at, is to see if they stick with that same thing that we saw in that March 1st matchup.
What's the toughest part about Dallas actually trying to match up on the defensive end with this Celtics team?
The Celtics have 8 guys. Their top 8 all take 3 threes or more a game, and they all shoot really well. They have a 5-out offense that the Mavs have not faced yet. They kind of faced a pseudo one with the Thunder. Chet is a three-point shooter, but he didn't really shoot that well, like 26% in the playoffs. Giddey's obviously not a three-point shooter. He'll take them. Dort took the most threes on their team, but he's not really that efficient. He had a good year, but didn't shoot the ball well in the playoffs. And so, they have faced sort of that, and they've tried that. But to face a team where every single player is a threat from 3 and a good threat from 3, that's a really tough thing to ask. And then you add on to the fact that, Derek White can drive and get a shot. Drew Holiday can drive and get a shot. Obviously, Tatum and Brown can drive and get their own shot in mid-range and break down defenses and things like that. Porzingis can post up now. That's a new thing that he's learned since he left the Mavericks. He's able to do that and post up on smaller players. And so you've got multiple dual threats on offense. And so starting with the three-point shot, you've got to limit that. But then there's so many other options they have outside of that.
There's a lot of star power on both sides of this series with Luka and Kyrie for the Mavericks, and then obviously Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, Drew Holiday. I mean, I could go on and on for the Celtics, but outside of the star players, who feels like is going to be the most important Mavs X factor in this series?
Yeah, I think the first one that comes to mind is Derek Lively, because you start to look at what the bigs are going to do. And the bigs in that Thunder series, the bigs, were able to just float sort of in the paint and float around between guarding Lou Dort and Giddey and maybe an Aaron Wiggins or somebody like that. And then they're able to defend the rim. And the Mavs defense kind of is all predicated on them being able to defend the rim, rotating in the right places and things like that. And then on offense, they've got the great advantage of setting the screens, catching lobs, getting offensive rebounds, things like that. And so I'm nervous about Gafford being able to play in this series. That's something that I'm looking at. He has not done very well against teams that switch. He's struggled in some of these playoff series, whereas Lively has thrived in every single look. Clippers, Thunder, and Timberwolves. He has thrived in each one of these series because he's able to step out and switch a little bit better. He's able to pass out of the short roll if teams trap him, or if teams trap the ball handler and send two to the ball on defense and things like that. So I'm looking at Derek Lively as the next most important player for the Mavericks, which is kind of wild. He doesn't even start. Obviously, PJ Washington, Derek Jones Jr., those guys are going to be tasked with guarding Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And so those guys are going to have a big opportunity there. Along with PJ Washington, I think that Corrales is right when John Corrales on Locked On Celtics talks about how they're going to guard Luka. They'll send one on Luka, everybody else stay home. But on Kyrie, he says he thinks that they're going to send multiple to the ball, send two to the ball, and have Kyrie try to beat you with his hubris to try and see if he's going to take the revenge thing and be like, all right, I gotta put it to this Celtics team instead of going for the extra pass. If they send two that way, that's the same thing the Thunder did. PJ Washington had 3 huge games against the Thunder where he put up a bunch of big numbers because he wasn't really getting guarded that much in those games. And so PJ Washington, if they guard Kyrie the same way, could have a really big game as well.
Kyrie potentially getting his revenge against the Celtics here in the finals is one of the few interesting storylines between these two teams as we get ready to take on the NBA Finals. But what, in your opinion, Nick, is one of the most underrated or underreported storylines as we're going into this Boston-Dallas Finals?
Yeah, I think that an underreported thing is Derek Lively. I'm gonna keep going back to him because I think his story is just incredible. For his story.
For all your Derek Lively news and updates, go subscribe to Locked On Lively. There you go.
That's right. I'll take it because, man, if he has 100 fans, I am one of them. If he has 1 fan, it is me. If he has 0 fans, I have deceased because he has gained a fan for me for life. Just the way that he has taken on every challenge. It started with him getting drafted. It started with in preseason, they go and play the Timberwolves. He gets dunked on by Rudy Gobert, and then all of a sudden, he learns from that situation. He goes and he takes it to another level. He becomes a starter right away. He changes what this Mavericks defense can do. He learns every single step of the way. His superpower is not being the same in each game. He takes it and he learns it and he applies it immediately. He's been great as a rim protector. Amazing passing out of the short roll. His decision making is just impeccable, which is something you don't think a 20-year-old rookie center is able to do. There were only 2 rookie centers in the last 25 years that have played on 50-win teams. I think it's Yao Ming and Al Horford are the only rookie centers that have played 25 minutes or so on a 50-win or a playoff team. It's wild because they just don't have this impact like this. Him and Chet have been really albatrosses when it comes to rookie centers having big impact. And add on to the fact with Derek Lively that he lost his dad at a young age. And so him and his mom have been very close. His mom was Kathy Drysdale, and she played collegiate basketball at Penn State. She was a great basketball player. And so she was there with him. She lived with him when he moved to Dallas and got drafted. And then she passed away this past year, within the past couple of months. And he went back to practice. He continued to play with the Mavs. This family has kind of come around him and rallied around him. And he has just taken everything in stride. He has been so strong through all of this and has leveled up in all of this too. He has become a 16-game player, a player that can play in all 16 potential playoff wins if you're going to win a championship. And that is an incredible discovery for a 20-year-old rookie center that struggled at Duke, that came into the NBA because the Mavs tanked 2 games and then came in and picked him in the lottery. Just an absolutely incredible story. I cannot get enough of it.
The Mavs bottoming out those last few games and being able to get Derek Lively in last year's draft will go down as one of the most possibly franchise-altering decisions. So important for this Mavs organization. Last thing I got here for you, Nick. What would a title mean for Luka, for Kyrie, for the rest of this Mavericks team?
Yeah, for Kyrie Irving, I start with that. It's sort of like a 2009 Kobe moment where Kobe finally won one without Shaq. And so Kyrie would win one without LeBron in a way. He wouldn't be the best player like Kobe was on his team, but it's a validation. It's a different section of his career. It's a different version of his career, and it's a lot of validation, probably a lot of image redemption for him too, for a lot of people out there, that he, has put basketball first, it seems, this season. And it seems like he has done everything that it takes to win for the Mavericks. He stepped up as a leader. Every single player on the Mavericks roster, up and down the roster, has talked about Kyrie's leadership at some point during this run, and I think that is definitely notable. For Luka, it's the validation of the stars. Luka is in the part of his star arc where it starts where Anthony Edwards is right now, where he can do no wrong and everybody's excited for him and everybody wants him to be great and all that. Then you get to this next point, and that's where Luka is, where there's the expectations, and all of a sudden it's like, what have you done for me lately? Have you won yet? We've seen that you're great, but how great are you? Can we knock you down a peg? Is there anything about your game that we hate? And then we just start harping on it over and over again. Luka can get to the point where Giannis and Jokic are right now. Can do no wrong. You're unassailable. You've won a title. You've gotten a pass for the next couple of years where it's like, whatever you do, you've got the title. That's the validation of the star. And Luka can get to that point in his star arc, like kind of a year or 2, 3 years early, if he can win a title this year.
What will ultimately happen in this NBA Finals between the Boston Celtics and Dallas Mavericks? Who ultimately takes game 1? You're going to have us covered for all of that and so much more over at Locked On Mavs. Nick, thanks for stopping by Locked On NBA with me.
Luka Doncic, Luka Doncic.